Welcome. Dawn broke over the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard on October 28, 1943, with an air of calm that belied the turmoil occurring just beyond the city's waters. By this time, U.S. involvement in World War II had escalated to an intense level as Allied and German forces clashed in brutal sea battles across the Atlantic. This conflict's intensity made that October morning anything but ordinary, marking the culmination of years of secret research by the U.S. government, all aimed at securing naval supremacy. The military, collaborating with top scientists like Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein, had been developing a new technology, a cloaking device, seemingly taken from science fiction, that would render their ships invisible. Now, the time had come to test their calculations, leading to what would later be infamously called the Philadelphia experiment. In the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard sat the USS Eldridge, outfitted with generators and strange equipment that mystified its crew. At a specific moment, the generators were activated, and a bluish-green fog began to envelop the ship. In a sudden flash, the Eldridge vanished into thin air. Minutes later, it unexpectedly reappeared over 200 miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, a phenomenon witnessed by the crew of the SS Andrew Furuseth. Just as abruptly, the Eldridge disappeared again before reappearing in Philadelphia, seemingly having traveled 10 minutes back in time. Military personnel rushed aboard to investigate and found a scene of horror, crew members with severe burns, some screaming incoherently, and, most disturbingly, others fused into the steel hull of the ship, alive but with limbs grotesquely embedded in the metal. What transpired that day was so shocking that it allegedly led the government to abandon the project, erasing all records of the Philadelphia experiment from public knowledge, until fate and a curious author intervened. In 1955, Morris K. Jessup, author of The Case for the UFO, a book exploring anti-gravity and electromagnetic phenomena, received a letter from a man named Carl M. Allen. Allen claimed to have been on the Eldridge the day of the Philadelphia experiment, describing how the ship was transported through time and dimensions, even encountering extraterrestrial beings. Jessup, intrigued, pressed Allen for evidence but found none, leaving him to question Allen's credibility. Then, in 1957, Jessup was contacted by the U.S. Navy. They had received a marked-up copy of his book with notes about alien technology and time travel, seemingly written by 3 different people, though Jessup recognized all the handwriting as Allen's. Soon after, the Navy published 127 annotated copies of the book, sparking more speculation. In 1959, Jessup was found dead in an apparent suicide, leaving behind a legacy entangled with the mystery of the Philadelphia experiment, which remains shrouded in myth and speculation to this day. In early 1895, Nikola Tesla was conducting experiments to explore how electricity and magnetic fields might impact space and time. That March, the New York Herald reported a peculiar encounter with Tesla, who had been found looking uncharacteristically disheveled at a cafe. When the reporter greeted him, Tesla responded, "I'm afraid I may not be very pleasant company tonight. I was nearly killed today. A spark jumped 3 feet through the air and struck me on my right shoulder. If my assistant hadn't cut the power immediately, I might not have survived." Tesla recounted how this electric shock, estimated at around 3.5 million volts, seemed to pull him out of his regular spacetime frame. "I could see the past, present, and future all at once," he explained, hinting at a breakthrough that seemed to suggest prescience, or possibly even time travel. By the 1930s, Tesla was a legendary figure and continued his research at the University of Chicago, where he focused on experiments with electrical invisibility. This work would lay the groundwork for what would later be known as the Philadelphia experiment. In 1939, the project moved to the Princeton Institute for Advanced Studies, where Albert Einstein and other leading scientists reportedly joined Tesla. By 1941, Tesla and his colleagues were collaborating directly with the U.S. government, developing calculations, blueprints, and generators for the Philadelphia experiment. However, before the trial could proceed, Tesla abruptly withdrew, warning of impending disaster and predicting a personnel issue that would severely impact the crew of the USS Eldridge. Deeply humanitarian, Tesla could not bear the horrific consequences he foresaw and chose to resign from the project. Despite Tesla's warnings, the U.S. government continued the research, assigning the project to physicist John von Neumann, who was more willing to take risks. Neumann's bold leadership led to the controversial events of the Philadelphia experiment in 1943, the same year that Tesla died alone in his New York hotel room. Shortly after his death, U.S. officials collected Tesla's papers and sent them to the FBI. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover labeled Tesla's work most secret. In fact, when a court ruled in 1952 that Tesla's nephew was entitled to his uncle's estate, the FBI returned only 60 of the 80 boxes it had catalogued. The contents of the remaining boxes remain unknown, sparking speculation about Tesla's discoveries. Some theorize that Tesla was developing a death ray that the government wanted for the war effort. Others suggest that his research was connected to the Philadelphia experiment and his warnings about time manipulation. To this day, questions persist: what secrets did Tesla's work contain, and who else might have understood them? Curiously, ancient texts also tell tales of time displacement. In one Hebrew story, the prophet Jeremiah sent a boy named Abimelech to gather figs. During his errand, Abimelech fell unconscious and awoke to find Jerusalem transformed, with an elderly man explaining that 62 years had passed. Similarly, in Christian and Islamic traditions, the story of the Seven Sleepers, or the Cave of Al-Kahf, recounts how a group of youths escaped persecution in 250 CE by hiding in a cave, only to emerge centuries later. These legends suggest that the concept of time travel may have been part of human imagination long before Tesla's groundbreaking experiments. When they finally emerged from the cave, nearly 300 years had passed. Stories like these aren't limited to ancient folklore either. Take, for instance, the legend of the Lordsburg Door outside of Lordsburg, New Mexico. Locals describe the door as a hidden portal in the desert that acts as a gateway through space and time. For decades, stories have circulated of UFOs passing through the door, and there's even an eerie tale of a human leg bone embedded in a tree stump at its entrance, left, they say, by someone who stepped out of the door directly into a tree. This tale echoes the chilling accounts of USS Eldridge crew members allegedly fused to the ship's hull after the Philadelphia experiment. Is the phenomenon at the Lordsburg door somehow related? Consider also the Bermuda Triangle, the infamous area off the southeastern U.S. coast between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Over the years, countless vessels and thousands of people have mysteriously vanished there. Pilots have reported sudden energy pulses and electronic malfunctions, stories reminiscent of those from the USS Eldridge. The area's mystique dates back to Christopher Columbus, who described huge columns of fire crashing into the sea, a detail that recalls the eerie burning experienced by the Eldridge crew. But are ancient tales and modern mysteries enough to prove time travel? Some believe evidence lies in out-of-place artifacts, or OOP objects that don't fit the time period in which they're found. For example, in 1991, archaeologists in Russia's Ural Mountains discovered tiny, coil-shaped artifacts dating back between 20,000 to 318,000 years. Made from copper, tungsten, and molybdenum, these artifacts resembled components of modern nanotechnology. How could such advanced technology exist so long ago? Elsewhere in Russia, near St. Petersburg, archaeologists found a fossilized mechanism with toothed metal cylinders dating back over 300 million years. Another example is the Klerksdorp spheres, discovered in South Africa. Nearly 3 billion years old, these small spheres display a design so precise, within 100,000ths of an inch from perfection, that researchers concluded they must have been crafted by intelligent beings. Some believe OOP arts suggest the existence of advanced prehistoric civilizations or extraterrestrial visitors, while others think they may point to time travelers from our future. Even more astonishing is a 2017 discovery in Crete, a trail of human footprints fossilized from over 5 million years ago. Human feet are distinctive, with aligned toes and no claws, quite different from primates, whose big toes stick out to the side. Yet, these prints were unmistakably human. How could humans have left footprints in a time when they didn't yet exist? Unless, perhaps, humans from the future traveled back in time. A video titled Forbidden Archaeology, These Artifacts Shouldn't Exist showcases such OOP arts. You'll find the link in the pinned comment below. For those skeptical of myths and conspiracies, even modern science has theories on time travel. But before exploring that, let's look at an ancient story from India. The Sanskrit epic Mahabharata, written around 400 BCE, tells the tale of King Kakudmi, who sought a suitable husband for his only daughter. Finding no worthy candidates, he and his daughter journeyed to the realm of the gods to seek Brahma's advice. After waiting for Brahma to finish a musical performance, the king asked for guidance on a match for his daughter. Brahma laughed, explaining that time passes differently in other realms. During their short wait, 27 Chatayugas, equivalent to 116 million years, had elapsed on Earth, and all the princes the king had considered were long dead. This story suggests that ancient cultures may have understood concepts of time dilation, hinting at ideas that modern science is only beginning to explore. What is intriguing about this story is not so much its veracity, but how its depiction of time aligns closely with modern scientific understanding, particularly the work of Albert Einstein. In his theory of special relativity, Einstein proposed that time is relative to the observer's frame of reference, meaning that time flows differently depending on one's motion and the strength of gravity. This idea suggests that time would pass differently for someone in space compared to someone on Earth, much like how King Kakudmi experiences time differently while in the realm of Brahma in the Mahabharata. Written nearly 2,500 years ago, the story of King Kakudmi illustrates what modern scientists call time dilation. This concept is often explained through the twin paradox. As outlined in Forbes magazine, one twin stays on Earth while the other embarks on a round-trip space journey at near-light speed. After 10 years, as measured by the Earthbound twin, the traveling twin returns to find her sister has aged 10 years, while she is barely aged at all. In essence, the traveling twin has leaped 10 years into the future. Time dilation is not just theoretical, it has been observed. In the 1990s, Russian cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev spent 803 days aboard the International Space Station. When he returned to Earth, scientists calculated he had traveled 0.02 seconds into the future due to the station's speed relative to Earth. Einstein's theory of special relativity laid the groundwork for the modern understanding of time travel. In 1915, he expanded upon his ideas with general relativity, which described spacetime as a four-dimensional fabric that responds to the presence of mass by bending, expanding, and contracting. Spacetime could be folded, allowing for shortcuts between distant locations, a phenomenon known as a wormhole. These ideas formed the foundation for time travel theories, which have evolved over the years. In 1937, Scottish physicist W. J. Van Stockham applied relativity to frame dragging, a concept that suggests an infinitely dense, rotating cylinder could drag spacetime along with it, creating a path that loops back on itself. Kurt Gödel expanded on this in 1949 with the concept of a closed timeline curve, a path that loops back to the exact moment of departure, much like traveling westward until one ends up back in the east. By the 1980s, theoretical physicist Kip Thorne and others were exploring how a wormhole could be kept open while one end travels at near-light speed, potentially creating a time machine. Recently, time travel research has made further strides. In 2020, American astrophysicist Ron Mallett made headlines for developing a method of traveling back in time. He had not only devised a mathematical equation but also built a prototype, a genuine time machine. Expanding on Einstein's general relativity, Mallett theorized that if space could be bent, it might also be twisted. His prototype uses lasers to generate a circulating beam of light, creating a twisting effect on spacetime. According to Mallett, with enough laser intensity in a sufficiently small space, it might be possible to distort time, forming a loop that allows for time travel into the past. Mallett's interest in time travel dates back to his childhood. He recounts how reading H.G. Wells' The Time Machine at age 11 inspired his fascination with the concept. Written in 1895, The Time Machine has influenced generations of science fiction works and continues to spark the imaginations of scientists and the general public alike. Even a renowned physicist like Ron Mallett, working with highly advanced concepts, is motivated by the same childlike curiosity about time travel that captivates so many of us, whether from reading Wells or watching Back to the Future. There's a certain romance to the idea of time travel that appeals to both geniuses and ordinary people alike. Even Stephen Hawking, perhaps the greatest scientific mind of our time, entertained the idea with playful curiosity. In 2009, Stephen Hawking hosted a unique party at the University of Cambridge, complete with balloons, a buffet, and champagne. As he stood in a tuxedo, Hawking humorously explained, "I like simple experiments, and champagne." To understand the experiment he was referring to, one only needed to read the invitation. You are cordially invited to a reception for time travelers hosted by Professor Stephen Hawking. It will be held at the University of Cambridge, Gonville and Caius College, Trinity Street, Cambridge, it read, with specific coordinates and the date listed. The twist, however, was that Hawking sent out the invitations only after the event had occurred, ensuring that only potential time travelers could attend. He cheekily added, "No RSVP required." As Hawking stood waiting with a glass of champagne, he explained, "I am hoping copies of the invitation, in one form or another, will survive for many thousands of years. Perhaps someone from the future will find it and use a wormhole time machine to come back to my party, proving that time travel will one day be possible." Unfortunately, no time travelers showed up, but Hawking didn't let it dampen his spirits. "What a shame," he joked. "I was hoping a future Miss Universe would step through the door." Perhaps you're wondering, if time travel is possible, why hasn't anyone traveled back in time to win the lottery or become a millionaire? Well, there's an intriguing case of a man who might have done just that, not with the lottery, but with the stock market. In March 2003, FBI agents arrested 44-year-old Andrew Carlson, who had just completed what seemed like the most fortunate streak in stock market history. In 2 weeks, he turned an $800 investment into $350 million. Naturally, the authorities took notice. However, Carlson surprised them by confessing in detail over a 4-hour interrogation. He claimed he wasn't just a savvy trader, he was a time traveler from 250 years in the future. Initially, his story was dismissed. A Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) spokesperson said, "We don't believe this guy's story, he's either a lunatic or a pathological liar." But with an initial investment of just $800, in 2 weeks he had a portfolio worth over $350 million. His trades were too precise to be mere luck. Despite this, Carlson maintained his time traveler claim, stating his 126 high-risk trades worked because he knew exactly how they would turn out. He also offered to divulge secrets like the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden and a cure for AIDS, but only if they let him return to the future. However, the FBI found no records of Carlson's existence prior to December 2002, as if he had never existed at all. Then, on April 2, 2003, while en route to a court hearing, Carlson vanished without a trace and was never seen again. The case was buried, with the SEC and FBI denying any knowledge of the incident. Another curious event occurred in 1998 when Art Bell, the host of the popular radio show Coast to Coast AM, read a fax to his audience from someone named John Titor, who claimed to be a time traveler from 2036. Titor described in detail how time travel was invented in 2034. Though the broadcast was initially forgotten, things took a strange turn in 2000 when messages appeared on early internet message boards from a user named John Titor, who claimed he had traveled back in time to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer from 1975. Titor explained that the IBM 5100 was needed in 2036 to debug legacy systems, as the computer could read old code written before the widespread use of APL and BASIC. Intriguingly, it was later confirmed by IBM that the 5100 had this unique function, a fact they had kept secret for years, something Titor couldn't have known unless he were truly from the future. Titor went on to make several predictions about the future, including the claim that the United States would descend into civil war in 2004, fracturing into 5 factions, and that World War III would begin in 2015. While these predictions were largely inaccurate, one statement he made has raised interesting questions. Titer wrote, "As far as the future goes, your world line is about 2.5% different than mine. This is a cumulative measurement based on my arrival in 1975. As far as I can tell right now, you are headed toward the same events I would call my history in 2036. Looking back, Titer's claim about civil unrest seems eerily prescient. While the U.S. didn't break into civil war in 2004, George W. Bush's re-election and the protests against the Iraq War could be seen as early signs of rising political tensions. These divisions later contributed to movements like Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter, and to the election of Donald Trump, a period of increasing polarization in the United States. As for Titer's prediction of World War III in 2015, while that didn't materialize, it's worth noting that just 1 year later, Trump's election marked the beginning of a trade war with China. While not a full-blown war, it's possible that economic conflicts could escalate into a more serious confrontation between the two world superpowers. Titer's predictions may not have been exactly right, but they offer a chilling glimpse into the possibility of future conflicts and upheaval. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please press the like button, and if you're new, please subscribe and turn the notification button on so you don't miss our future videos.